has questions, and then if you have more questions, I have cards, so I can pass out cards to you and just wave your hand, and I'll pick them up and take them over to Bob to ask. So and then you can ask that questions if you want.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Go.
I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tim Anderson. I currently hail from Texas. I live in Temple, Texas, and I've been there since 2004. And as far as background, I always think, well, my life's not that interesting. How far back can one go? I mean, there's not, as far as growing up, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, on a farm. The closest town was 20 miles away. I grew up in Ontario, in Canada. After high school, I went to Trent University, which is in Peterborough, Ontario, and completed a 4-year honors degree in biology. And as I mentioned earlier, after completing my degree, I was broke. I was sick of school. And so I entered the workforce and learned very quickly that I was bored out of my mind at what I was doing. And so after about 1.5 years, I left that and pursued graduate school. I was very, very fortunate. In Canada, there are only 3 vet schools in the entire country. 3 English, sorry. There is 1 French one as well. And I believe Saint-Etienne. And I was lucky enough to get into...
Pardon me, for the benefit of the hard of hearing, could you...
Louder?
Well, get near it so it...
Okay. I wasn't sure how well that was picking up. Okay. After, like I said, getting into graduate school, the Ontario Veterinary College, beautiful school. And so I did my master's and PhD in veterinary microbiology and immunology. I graduated and finished my program in 1995. I'm not sure if you remember back then, but the Canadian economy tanked in 95. It was bad. I remember the exchange rate for an American dollar was 64 Canadian cents. Or no, sorry, it was the other way. Canadian dollar was 64 American cents. So there was opportunities in the U.S., and that's where I ended up going. I went to South Dakota State University, Department of Veterinary Science. I did a 2-year postdoc position there. And then after the worst winter they had had in 500 years, and I'm not kidding, when Fargo flooded, and I have pictures of my dogs on 40-foot snowbanks. I thought, this is not the place for me. And everybody said, well, you're from Canada, you're used to it. No, I'm not. Are you nuts? I have never seen so much snow in all of my life. And so then I thought I'd move somewhere warmer, like Nebraska. And it was better. It really was. I was fortunate enough at a meeting to make contact with a member from the USDA. And so they invited me down for an interview at the Meat Animal Research Center. Very unique place. I have never seen cattle grazing on bomb bunkers in my life. It's a very, that's where they did make. From my understanding, over 20,000 people were employed there during the Second World War making bombs. And so there are bomb bunkers everywhere, and there are cattle running all over them. And so I did research there for 2 years, then migrated south to Texas to the Feed and Food Safety Research Unit at Texas A&M. After being there, I decided I wanted to go into teaching. I had known that that's what I wanted to do, but I also wanted the skills and the background that my education taught me that I would take into the teaching world. I then was employed at Barton County Community College for a period of 3 years. And then I went back to Texas. I worked for Central Texas College. There for 2 years, the opportunity came up after 2 years to apply for the department chair position, which I didn't think I would get, seriously. There were people with many years more experience than I had, and I was lucky enough to get that position. And so in addition to being a full-time microbiology instructor, I serve as the chair for science, agriculture, medical laboratory technology, and phlebotomy. I don't know how the phlebotomy and the MLT program got in there, but they have been in there, and they will remain there, that's to the best of my knowledge. So, any questions? I just like I said, I never know what to tell you.
assuming you didn't have all the snowbanks in Texas that you had in South Dakota.
No, when we get snow in Texas, you photograph it. You do. I remember letting my dogs out, and they were like, what's this stuff on the ground? Because it melted by noon. All the excitement was gone.
I have a series of submitted questions that people have submitted.
Okay.
over a period of time. The name of this college is Cloud County Community College. And Cloud County, obviously, because we're located in Cloud County, and the college, obviously, is the other piece. But tell us how you would bring the community into and stress that community piece in terms of Cloud County Community College.
I think one of the key things about any colleges, and whether it's in a larger or smaller area, because we've had this problem, is marketing and identity. And so that the people in the surrounding community know what is going on at the college. I mean, the college I currently work at, they're surrounded by a city of 120,000 people. And if I told them, I work at Central Texas College, they'd say, where's that? And so that has been a big issue as far as bringing the community in, is marketing. Obviously, you have community members on your board of directors, but also hosting events here at the college, making sure college people are present at community events. Their faces there. They're wearing CCCC t-shirts. Believe me, it works because I have CTC t-shirts. So yeah, you're doing it, and I also know you're doing podcasts. You're doing local broadcasts on radio, you're advertising in the media, newspapers, all of those things collectively to try to bring the community into the college setting. It's very, very important. And like I said, to live in a large, highly populated area and still people don't know who you are, believe it or not, we underwent a huge rebranding campaign to try to establish that identity, which we lacked.
How do you plan to develop relationships with the faculty at Cloud County Community College?
I think one of the big things as far as developing relationship, yes, I can hold meetings and we can talk, but I don't really know what you do in your classroom, so don't be offended if I show up. And so that way when you tell me you need new technology or there's something that's an issue, I can say, yes, I've been in that room, I understand. Or you're having this difficulty. And that's one of the nice, attractive things about the size of the college. I'll be able to do that. I'll be able to be in your class, or your lab, or your lecture. And most instructors are very good about it. They don't, because when I do faculty evaluations, that's part of your evaluation. I'm in your classroom. And so I also want that person to have the freedom, if there's a problem or they're having an issue, to come to my office and discuss it with me. I can tell you, and I'm going to tell you personally, not a single dean has ever come to my class. Never. And so how do they know what is going on in my classroom? They don't. And so I think being there and being present. And yes, we can do, I mean, it's usually, as far as department chair, we have one meeting a month, and we discuss the issues that are going on. But also, I can do things like that too. But I'd rather, we have that as a collective, but I also think meeting you personally, drop by your office, talk to you, how are you doing today? It doesn't have to be formal, so that you have the ability and feel comfortable coming and see me if there's a problem.
How will you get to know the students at Cloud County Community College?
Well, one of the things I hope to at least continue to teach one course, if it's possible. Just so you know, I teach microbiology. It has now changed for science majors. And the state changed the prerequisites, so now it's a non-science majors microbiology for allied health. So it's a lower division type of microbiology. But I think one of the things I learned the most, because students are going to tell me about their registration problems. They're going to tell me about wrong information they were given, the high cost of books, or the availability of things. So I think that's a good pulse, is the ability to at least teach one class a year or a semester, depending on what it is. I know many administrators have said that. I have never seen one do it. I never have. I've heard it many times, and there has never been one teach a class.
Obviously, you will have strong support for the science program. What are your, and I'm not being critical at all, we have strong science programs, but my other question would be, how do you, what kind of support will you provide for the fine arts program, the wind energy program, and other programs at the college?
Oh, I think one of the things, it's interesting, when we have fine arts events on campus, who's there? Me. I attend those, because I want to know what the students are doing. And also, the department chair is a very good friend of mine. We go to lunch. And so after they do the performances, I tell them, you need to get money for a sound system because it sucks. The audio in here is horrible because you lose. So I think one of the things is for those programs is to attend the events. If you have an artist on campus, or you're doing a display of pottery, which they do, or drawings or whatever, make sure that my face is known there, just as it is with the sciences and the community events. As far as new programs, obviously one of the problems, and most of you are very aware, fine arts is being squeezed financially. And so unfortunately, when it comes to the trickle-down theory of money, that sound system may never happen, because we need money for this and that. But I think I'm a huge advocate, because one of the issues, and we were talking about this earlier, is that we are deciding a new Common Core curriculum. And fine arts was squeezed, and they lost credit hours in the new core. And one of the arguments is, and I agree with it, is the whole idea of the college is a overall education, a life learning process. Yes, it is to be employable, but art appreciation or recognition, drawing, any of those things, so you don't get a job in it. It is something, though, that you're going to carry with you throughout your life. So I think it's just as important as any other courses, and definitely promote them.
What role do you see the community college playing in preparing 21st century workforce, and how does student success impact that role?
Well, I think clearly with it, okay, you hear on the news constantly, I hear reports of students who graduated with horrendous debt and no job, right? They moved home, they're living with their parents. And the shift has been, why do I bother going and getting an education in the first place if I can't find a job? And we need to, there needs to be a reality check. If the point is that you are looking for something directly employable, you need to seek degrees in which those job opportunities exist. Yes, I want to be a history major, okay? What is the likelihood that I'm going to be employed that way? It's truthful. And so let's look at possibly other types of two-year programs where, yes, you can get out into the work market. If you decide at that point you want to pursue your career, you have a financial backing that you can do that and go somewhere else. The other thing that scares me is I see a lot of schools advertising, why take extra courses you don't need, right? We are going to streamline your education so you can get a job. I'm all for that. But how do you know that you don't instill an interest in somebody by having them take a course, and that might give them a lifelong learning opportunity and something they never would have been exposed to. So that's been an issue. Also, I think one of the things why not everybody needs a two-year degree. We have found that if you're and this happens especially in the agriculture department, we had a lot of people, the ag students, they wouldn't complete the degrees. They're not here for a two-year degree. And what's more successful is a certificate program, and we've developed 3 different certificate programs. They come, they get the skills they need, and they can get out and get a job. And so I think, again, one is evaluating your workforce, the market, and the students you're turning out to see that they're employable, but not at the expense, and I just want to stress this, not at the expense of eliminating courses that potentially it has nothing to do with your job, but it may be a passion that you develop, and you'll never know unless you take those courses.
in the world of rising budget constraints, how will you help teachers succeed in the classroom? Not that we have those.
Wow. That is really, really hard. I mean, just so you understand, I do 4 budgets a year. My budget goes in at the end of April. I do a budget for natural science. I do one for MLT phlebotomy and also agriculture. And we've been hit hard with rollbacks from the state, sometimes mid-year. That happened 2 years ago where we lost 10%. And my money disappeared. And I'm thinking, just wait a second, how am I going to pay for hay? I don't have any money. Well, we have money. But the idea is the technology aspect, once installed, I think helps keep pace, although that's a big financial expenditure initially. For example, we talk about smart rooms, smart classrooms, the ability to automatically tape lecture, or not tape, well, record lectures and post them on the internet as an iPod download. All of those things, what's in there that will help instructors keep current in their field, but hopefully at a reduced pace. The other is, and I know, is increased class size. Another is, and I don't like this, is adjuncts. And I'm just going to share with you, if you're my full-time faculty and you're teaching an overload, I pay you in a certain way. If you were an adjunct, and this is true, that the adjunct for the same course and the same number is a fraction of what I would pay full-time faculty members. And economics is economics. And so if those additional courses need to be taught, then you would look for outside adjunct sources to do it. And I know this is a big underlying hot issue for us in the sense of why there is such a disparity, but there is. And that's one way to address economic problems. Others just trying to be more innovative in the way that we use resources. Often faculty say, I've got to have this, I've got to have this. And it's like, well, do you really? Do you really need that now, or can we put it off to the next fiscal year? Because I just came up with an unexpected bill. I didn't expect the walk-in freezer to go down, and I needed a compressor. I didn't expect the autoclave. This happened. It was $1,000 to fix the autoclave. I've got to have an autoclave. So there has to be some flexibility and nuance in handling those financial constraints. But yes, we have dealt with that as well.
Jen or Cindy, do you have any questions at this point? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, he put you on the spot.
Sorry.
Didn't he?
I think you're going through the list. You answered one of the questions I have already.
Okay, what question was that?
I have a question.
Okay.
How do you, full-time faculty are very ingrained in the system and in the programs and the teaching activities that are around. How do you incorporate the use of adjuncts who are here and gone, here and gone, here and gone, and obviously they play an important role in the education of our students. And particularly, certainly at Geary County, but also at Concordia and outreach and our online activities. How do you keep them involved and motivated in the classroom?
That's a good question, and I know if I could give you the answer, everybody would be really happy, because that's been a problem that most institutions deal with. If you have an adjunct who's never may actually be on campus, I have adjunct online instructors that I have never met personally. They're in other states. However, we have met because we do, I do online conferences with them. We schedule, and so we work with the Blackboard system, and so we can actually, all of us are, although we're physically not in the room, we can speak to one another, we can type in questions, address. So yes, that helps bring them in again, to be part of the process and deal with the issues that we have. The other thing is, if it is possible, I do ask, and this happens to do with dual credit instructors and adjuncts who are teaching in other cities whom I've never met. I ask that we meet at least once a year so that I know who you are, and also that you can feel free to communicate with me, because oftentimes these people in other cities, they're on an island. I don't know what they're doing. And it's my responsibility to make sure that they're covering the content and that the students are being prepared as they leave. So yes, there are, I think the WIMBA seminars and other technological approaches would be a way of bringing them in. But they often feel like orphan children or whatever, that their message is not being heard when a decision is being made. They're not included in the process, and I think it's important that we bring them in, even though they physically are not in the room. Technology can help us do that.
Could you speak to the role that developmental education plays at today's community college?
It is truthfully the tail that wags the dog. It really is. In the sense that, and it depends on schools, we're no different than anybody else. I would say 50% of our students come in developmental. They test out developmental, and that's either in math or reading or writing. And this is the paradox, and I wish I had an answer for it yet, but we don't. If a student has to take more than 2 developmental courses, there's a 30% chance that we're going to lose them. The more developmental courses they take, the less likely they are to succeed, even though they need those courses. The other issue is on the state side. They're not going to pay for all those developmental courses, because students are supposed to have arrived in your classroom knowing that. So why are we paying twice for this? So the number of courses, it used to be 18 credit hours they would cover. It's down to 15 and is believed to be dropped down to 12. Also, the different approach is, if you are deficient in decimals to fractions, the math example, why spend 16 weeks to meet that one deficiency or a small level? And so what schools are approaching to do, and we're doing this as well, I do not know if it's working, I cannot say, is to do mini compressed courses. And these are 4-week courses or 5. And this is this subset of math, or this reading skill. It's worth 1 credit as opposed to 3. It allows you to target 3 possible developmental areas in 1 semester, and therefore get into the courses very, very quickly in the spring semester. There is the proposal that you be, and I'm sorry I don't buy this, a student can register and be in the class. Say, for example, you're taking Biology 1406, which is an introductory biology. I require that you have an asset score of 45, or we use AccuPlacer, which is another one, of 95 or above. There's proponents that say, okay, if you don't have that, we're going to put you in that course at the same time and allow you to seek remediation for that. I'm really dubious as to whether that would be effective, given that those courses, if you're not doing well and you're overwhelmed by the course itself, taking additional material to help you with what you're overwhelmed with, I don't know how constructive that would be. I think the mini compressed schedule will be more effective. I would like to say that developmental students that test as developmental, students that test as Pell Grant, students that are over 24 or 25, adult learners, and those of other races, all of those are risk factors for completion. In the sense, if you test in as developmental and on Pell Grant, the likelihood of you dropping increases from 30% to maybe 50%. So development is a huge, huge issue for us. And I mean, to the point, and I'm not kidding, we have a huge, huge, huge building. The nursing department just built a new huge building, and guess what took over? Developmental, because that is one of the largest departments on the entire campus, is developmental education. And it's huge.
What qualities do you look for in hiring a new faculty member?
I think, obviously, that I'm going to tell you, first off, on the personal side, we do different rounds. One, we do phone interview, and if we feel we got a good person, we invite them face to face. Some people interview very well on the phone, but you get a very different impression when you meet them and how they come across. And one of the things to be an effective faculty member, yes, you have to know your stuff and have the academic background, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a good instructor. It depends on how you relate to others, the ability to work as a group, the ability to work independently. Do you listen? Do you listen to, would you be willing to listen to your students? Are you willing to take criticism? Most people aren't, because you're going to get a lot of that when you're an instructor, when you have 60 people to please with all different ideas on what you should be doing. So I think one of the things is to invite people and have quite large committees interview them, and then have each person in the committee feel free to express their opinion. It's amazing how I might pick up on something and you will pick up on something else, and this can pose a problem, and your ability to work as a group, a member, and if we see that as a problem, then you will likely not get the job, because that's a huge issue. I mean, that's part of what we do.
We've encouraged a number of students to attend this.
Yeah, they're over here.
And we're pleased they're here, because they're why we're all here. And so speak to the role that outside the classroom has on a student's development and future development. Speak to other
You
things.
mean other than academic stuff?
Yes.
Okay. It's huge. I'm going to give you a scenario of the majority of the students that I deal with, many of which are older. Some people call them non-traditional. They may be in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, or even older. They often have kids they're taking care of. Many of them are single parents, wise choice, or design, it depends. Many of them are military, so their partner is deployed. And they work. And they come to me and they say, okay, I need to do this, and I only have this much time. And it makes my head reel, because I understand your dilemma, but at the same time, if I override that prerequisite and put you in that course, you're not going to succeed. And it's going to take you even more time than you thought. And so one of the key things with knowing the students is, I know you have 5 kids, because I've talked to you. I know that you just spent all night, and this is true because I have a lot of students who will work all night, come into scrubs, try to hang on to get through lecture in the morning, and then go home. But I think establishing that personal connection is, they must and feel free to come and speak to me, which they do. And that what we discuss is private. And so also they're not only a student, but they're a person. And I know I've dealt with divorce many times over, whether it's faculty members or students. I have dealt with issues, obviously, of restraining orders, abuse, any number of different issues, all with students. And again, not only you are a person, and there are other issues that you are dealing with, and so that's my responsibility to point you in the right direction if I can, or just listen if I need to. And so I think that's very important.
Other than we don't get a lot of snow in Cloud County. But people are excited, some people are excited when it does snow, because they're thinking about whether we have class or not that day. But
Yeah, is it school canceled?
it does occasionally happen. And it is the Vice President of Academic Affairs.
Who makes that decision?
Yeah.
Really?
I know we're trying to,
But I know. one of the
try to sell
differences-
you on this position too, so.
You have snow plows, and you have salt trucks.
What about Cloud County Community College motivated you to apply for the vice president's position.
Okay. It's so, I'm going to give you a story. One of the things is when I was teaching in Kansas before, and I told my students, I'm going to be moving to Texas. And they said, where are you going to go? I said, I'm going to go to Killeen. And this student, she said, you are moving to the armpit of Texas. And I'd never been there, seriously. And I said, why did you say that? And she said, and that was because she was a military spouse. The city wasn't the greatest, because it's not. And I always look at it, wherever I go, I'm going to make the best of it. Now, as far as Cloud County goes, having taught here again, like I said, in Kansas, I know what to expect. I want to work for a smaller institution in a rural area. And I think one of the things is, and it came to a previous question, I'm going to know the instructors. I'm going to know what you teach. And also I want to get to know the students. For example, where I work, there are people, other department chairs, they have no idea what programs I offer. They don't. They don't know anything other than their own door, right? Beyond my departmental door, they don't know. And I think that's one of the things with working in this type of environment is that I will know. And so there's that sense of connection, I think. Your student numbers are good in the sense of the ratio between instructor and student. And I think one of the deals with the community college level is that those students get, if they want to talk to the instructor, they go talk to him or her. They don't have to go to a TA. If there's a problem with your grade, bring your exam in and we'll go over it. Whereas at larger institutions, that is not going to be the case. And so I think that's one of the big draws. Also, for those of you, I deal with horrendous traffic every day, and I'm sick of it. I go on 35, which is 6 lanes. It is Death Valley on 35. I don't know if you know that's a major artery between Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and then I drive through a city where 90%, the majority of people think they're driving through Baghdad or downtown Fallujah, and I'm not kidding. It is just wild. If you have, where the entrance to my college is just past the main gate, you have 60,000 people converging on that area in 2 lanes. Right, it's 2 lanes. It's now under construction to triple it. To open it up, it has to be, but it is a nightmare. That's all I can say. I am sick of that stuff, and it's not going to get any better. It's the population just keeps growing. So one of the advantages here is I don't have to deal with that anymore, and I'd be very, very grateful.
Well, we do have the last stoplight on 35 until you hit Dallas, so I'll let you know. We have actually 3, which are the last, only 3 along 81 from York down to here. So,
And your speed limit's lower.
in some places, yes. Speak to what you do for fun. What you would, and I know that in the bio you mentioned a number of things, but maybe you could speak to. Obviously, all work and no play makes
A very unhappy person.
Yeah.
Okay, things that I do for fun. And I want to clarify one thing in my bio. I am an avid motorcyclist, no doubt about it. And in Texas, it allows you to do that. Right? I can ride all year round, and I do. Obviously, I do own a truck, and I don't use it because it gets 14 miles per gallon. And it's a pig. Yes. So that's one of my passions, obviously, is motorcycling. The other is, and I jokingly say that I tend to buy older, what real estate agents like to call you fixer-uppers. Oh, you can do this. I know better. I know how much it costs to rewire. Plumb. I'm amazing at wood floors. I'm really good putting in walls. You name it. I can paint. I'm landscape. I do it all, and I enjoy it. And one of the things that I do miss now that I did a lot in this area before, auction sales. I love it. You meet the strangest people. or some would say interesting. Actually, I love it. I've met a lot of great people. That's how I knew this area, in fact, because when I lived in Clay Center, Nebraska, I used to go to Concordia, all over the place. And then, of course, when I was south of here, we'd come into this area for auctions as well. So There is nothing, and people say, well, what are you going to do for shopping? I hate shopping. I live, honestly 14 miles, maybe 15 miles from these huge outlet malls in Round Rock. Do I go there? No, only when my mother makes me. She comes, flies in, I gotta go shopping. And so I take her. There's just not that attraction to me. I don't care. If there's something I want, I'll go finger shopping on the internet. I order all my motorcycle equipment that way. My only concern is that you have a bike shop, so I was looking for that. That services motorcycles.
We got one down in Junction.
What kind? Is it a Harley dealer or? Oh,
City Cycle Sales, yeah, Harley.
it is Harley. Okay. See, that's the problem. I don't have a Harley. I don't have Harleys. It was Suzuki and Kawasaki.
I've got a couple good ones.
We got some here.
Okay, good. Good.
Obviously, a lot of the focus that is certainly in Kansas is on technical education, and we certainly have great programs in wind and health and in other areas. But a lot of our students are on a 4-year track, or a 5-year track, depending on how fast they're moving. But basically, they're moving on to a 4-year institution from here. They are moving to, would that say Kansas State, KU, Wichita State, Fort Hays, all kinds of different places, and even out of state. So speak to how you see those transfer students meeting their needs at Cloud County Community College and moving on to the 4-year institution.
Okay. That's a huge issue because, and I want to just first address the philosophy of the community college. When students arrive at a community college, in some cases, and this is not always, they think it's like an extended high school. And very quickly, there's a reality check when they don't pass. What do you mean I can't have that in later than the deadline? Why can't I do a do-over? Because this is college. And one of the things that's important to me, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year institution, that when you take that course and it transfers to a 4-year institution, you are prepared. And so that when you get into a 3rd year or 4th year level course, using the prerequisites that were taught here at Cloud County or any other community college, you're not going to be slaughtered. You're not going to say that college did not prepare me to succeed. And that is essential, is that, yes, these are economic alternatives. I have lots of university students come and take my courses in the summer because it's a fraction of the price. Now, do they get the fraction of the education? No. And I will tell you, this is after my summer course, they said, I never thought it would be this difficult. And so they had their eyes open because I'm teaching a Common Core course. So if you go to K-State, Emporia College, wherever you go, you have what you need. And that's very important. The other thing, in as far as programs go, and you talked earlier about wind energy, I saw you were thinking about geothermal. I think part of it too is exploring new types of programs. And one of the things for us, and this is specific to our location, I'm not sure if you're aware, Texas A&M is building a facility several miles from our college, which we're very grateful for because 6 weeks ago they announced a $600 million solar array project where they have acquired a large tract of land off of I-95, which is just running south. And so then from our college perspective is, okay, there are solar tech programs, 2-year programs that could feed into those 4-year institutions. So that helps us, and sometimes that gives us the flexibility to offer those new programs and get them underway quite quickly to feed into those other 4-year institutions. And that doesn't happen as rapidly as a 4-year institution. It doesn't. So I think that's one of the advantages as far as meeting the needs as well.
As I told you this morning, it's sometimes a blessing and a curse that we live in
A rural area?
Well, not in a rural area so much, in that we live in a small taxing district.
Oh, right.
That there is a great deal of ownership by the members of the community in this college.
Correct.
And on the other side, there are members of the community who say, why do my tax dollars go to this college? So maybe you could speak to Bob Maxon, who's a community member who's concerned about his tax dollars going to Cloud County Community College. Tell me what your response would be and how you would respond to that question.
I think one of the things to remember that as a taxpayer, which I am, I pay very high property taxes. The state of Texas is very high, so my education taxes are extremely high. And I too think that, why am I bonding in this new school? But at the same time, I look at it as I'm one of thousands of investors. And yes, they are investing in this college. But does that mean as an investor, I can dictate the direction of the college? And the answer is no. I can voice my opinion. I have the right to do so because I'm a shareholder. And I think that's one of the things is public forums. If the college is say we're going to try to raise a bond for a new building, for example, with alternative energy, you want to explore new programs and you need to take a bond out, you have to sell. It's a sales job, and try to convince people why and what advantage this would bring to this community to have graduates in those programs. And you may be successful for the majority of people, and there may be people that are adamant, no, I don't want to increase my taxes for this. But I think if we do the best we can to show that it's going for a very good cause, we're producing qualified students that are entering the job market, we've justified the use of that money. Again, you're just one of many. And that's the best we can do as far as trying to relay why and what we're doing and answer any questions that person may have.
Questions that somebody has that they'd like to ask, that haven't asked, to try to hit most of them that people have presented to me?
Yes.
Todd.
You were talking about the solar energy program.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you've done enough research in Cloud County. Do you see any new programs that we should be looking at here?
In alternative energy sources or just programs in
Any
general?
programs in general?
Yes, I have. One of the things is, obviously, when I look at a school, and this gets into the small surroundings, is I look at what are the largest employers that you have in the local vicinity. Obviously, healthcare. Now, when we look at what's going to be a driver, and this is not Kansas specific, please understand that in the next 5 years, healthcare aides, they expect a 40 to 50% demand in the job market. Now this is something, it's not a 2-year program. You could do a certificate or a 1-year program. And it depends on how the state works as far as certifying this. This is a huge market for that. Another are, I think, environmental field technicians. Is when we talk about, especially with fracking, water sources, a variety of other things, are students who are prepared to go out. They know how to do soil testing, water testing. They know how to analyze them. They know how to write reports. Again, you're looking at employers from the government side and also from private industry. Again, those are very good 2-year programs. Others, I think, that would be useful, and some of you may think this is really strange, tagging on a criminal justice, forensic science. It's huge. And I'm not talking necessarily a 4-year forensic science program. We're talking about a forensic technician. I think once there's more standardization in that field, because that's been a huge problem, I think that field will grow. And we always think, oh, murder, this isn't necessarily about murder. You can use forensics to track dumping, illegal dumping of chemicals into wells or into streams, discharges from companies. Again, I think that is another huge approach. And one of the things I try to compare is, okay, do you have a big police department in this area? I don't think so. But those are jobs that students in this area, if they're going to go to Kansas City, if they're going to go to Topeka, or wherever they're going to end up in larger metropolitan areas, they can find employment. Now, the other thing I mean, there's so many other type of jobs. IT, of course, I'm not trying to overstress the sciences, but IT is huge. We know that IT dumped and tanked for the last 4 to 6 years, but IT has been rocketing up as far as people that are qualified in those jobs. And again, those seriously are going to be people that move away. I'm sorry, but that's it. And I know from the IT side of things, being in Austin, most of you know Texas Instruments, Dell, a variety of other, that is a huge, big money market right there, are those IT jobs. And so I think that's something to pursue as well.
Tom?
In your experience, have you had an opportunity to partner with private industry?
Directly?
Well, however, what your experience has been?
Let me just repeat that question so that Geary County folks can. It's about partnership with business and industry in general and your experience with those partnerships.
Okay. I want to make sure that I state correctly. Do we partner with industry? The answer is yes, we do. Is there an economic exchange? No. The way we partner with industry is, of course, is through the Medical Laboratory Technology Program. Our students, we have 13 clinical sites that we send those students to. And the partnership comes in is that those clinical sites must report back to us on all the students. We have general meetings where they say, we need your students to be better suited, for clinical chemistry, hematology, whatever it is. That direct feedback tells us what we need to do to prepare those students to be successful. And I'm going to tell you, though every single student in that program has a job. Because before those students graduate, the employers phone us. Do you mind if we come and speak to your student? Come all you wish. Also, because the students have work there as part of their clinicals, they pre-screen them and say, you know what, I like that student. I don't like that one because of late, attitude, whatever. And so they can work through it, and that partnership has been very advantageous. And I'll tell you one other thing, and this is off topic. Where that partnership paid off, our walk-in cooler went down, and we lost everything. All my thousands of dollars worth of micro supplies, hematology supplies, everything. Those hospitals donated that material to us. We called them, they said, because they have expired stuff, right? We can't use this clinically because we'd be sued. But you can use it in a teaching situation. And they gave us thousands of dollars. And I mean many thousands of dollars worth of material. And the reason is that collaboration and partnership existed. So yes, I find that very beneficial.
We tend to try to keep us online and also, or on time, and also let faculty and others leave. Without offending you, we're coming toward the end of the hour. On behalf of the search committee and certainly the faculty and staff at the college, thank you for coming, and
Thank you.
Giving more opportunity.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Did you think of a question yet?
I'll catch you tomorrow.
Okay.